Afternoon. Welcome to Capital Account. I'm Lauren Lister here in Washington, D.C. These are your headlines for October 10th, 2012. He is a UK politician with a U.S. following and a Eurosceptic party that has seen its support grow, moving it from the fringe to a position of being a viable mainstream alternative. He's known for not mincing his words. UKIP leader and MEP Nigel Farage is here in our studio today for a sit-down. In the most gray and uninspiring of contexts, that of burgeoning EU bureaucracy, our next guest has managed to amass a highlight reel second to none, turning his European parliamentary position into a bully pulpit for a growing movement of Eurosceptics.
And the question that I want to ask, that we're all going to ask is, who are you?
Well, now everyone knows who he is because that video went viral, and everyone knows who Nigel Farage is, leader of the UK Independence Party, member of European Parliament. These speeches over the years have gone viral on the internet, and Mr. Farage has garnered a following not only at home, but here in the U.S. While at home, his party has gone from fringe to a force to be reckoned with. Nigel Farage joins me now live. We're so thrilled to have you in studio. Thanks for being here.
Pleased to be here, and thank you for showing my best clips.
We really did like your highlight reel. So much to choose from, hard to get it whittled down. So let's just start with you. Every time you give a speech on the floor of Parliament, when you come on this show and do an interview, it goes viral in the financial blogosphere here in the U.S. Why do you think your message resonates so much here in America?
Well, the global markets are all interconnected. You know, what happens particularly in New York and Chicago is totally linked in to what is happening in the Eurozone. And the Eurozone crisis is hanging heavily across the whole of the financial and investment community of the world. So people are really interested to hear what's going on. And what they get from Mr. Barroso and Van Rompuy and all the other ghastly people in Brussels that no one's ever voted for, what they get is this diet of, there's no problem, chaps, we're going to have a summit next Thursday, it'll all be sorted out. Well, there have been 21 summits over the last 2 years, and here we are today with Cyprus on the verge of needing a bailout, the Spanish position, frankly, looking perilous. And I think the reason my stuff goes viral is that I'm giving not just a counter-argument, but I think and I believe and I hope a pragmatic economic alternative.
Because have even you been surprised that we haven't seen a Greek exit yet, or that despite all of the pain, we've still seen Greeks go to the polls and, yes, give more support to anti-Euro parties, but ultimately re-elect mainstream parties, and that the Euro architects, despite the cost of these bailouts, still seem committed to keeping Greece in. Have you been surprised
yes,
on this long?
I have to say that I would have thought that by now the markets would have forced Greece out, and it hasn't happened. And I think Draghi's statement that we saw over the summer, the ECB president, when he said, we will do whatever it takes. And kind of they mean it. I mean, they are prepared to risk everything and more to defend this project. The clue was a meeting that I had last year with Angela Merkel, and I said to her, Chancellor, wouldn't it be kinder to your taxpayers who've just spent 20 years paying for Eastern Germany to be reintegrated into Western Germany? Wouldn't it be kinder to them to stop having to sign a blank cheque in perpetuity? And wouldn't it be a liberation for Greece to leave the euro, get the drachma back with a big devaluation and an opportunity to trade their way back to some sort of sanity?
Well, what did she say?
She said, no, Mr. Farage, if Greece leaves the euro, other countries will leave too, and that will be the end of our European dream.
So you think it's the fear of the dominoes?
But it's absolutely, that was what she was saying. But what she's also really saying is this: we don't care. We don't care that youth unemployment is nearly 60%. We don't care that 25% of private companies have gone bust in the last 5 years. We frankly don't care if the whole of Greece starves, as long as we maintain our euro project. The IMF, which had done a good job since 1945, has now been hijacked. You know, it may be here in Washington, but effectively it's become the overseas bailout office for the euro. And if things go badly wrong, the IMF will be expected to put huge amounts of money in, and that, of course, includes America. Yeah. And I think there should be a bigger debate in America about, you know, should they still be putting 18% of this money into the euro bailouts via the IMF? So, I mean, I'm pretty unimpressed with all the IMF does.
You know, I have to ask, you give these colorful speeches on the floor, you do not mince your words. Is the relationship with the other EU members of parliament and bureaucrats, is it as it would appear to be, given how you are on the floor in private? Or are you chumming with Van Rompuy and you go have a beer at the pub after being fined thousands of euros for
It's not good.
criticizing him?
No,
Not good?
it's not good at all.
No beers with Van Rompuy?
Absolutely not.
You may be paying more fines, Mr.
Farage.
Farage.
It's been calculated that if I am rude to Mr. Van Rompuy and if I'm fined another 63 million times, I personally would have paid for the entire Euro bailout fund.
Oh, all right. And at home in the UK, his party, UKIP, has been gaining steam. In 2009 elections, they were polling with double the support of the stage in the prior electoral process that they had. And just last month, this is a headline from The Guardian, no exaggeration, UKIP is now a force to reckon with. If the cards fall its way, Nigel Farage's party will shape the 2015 election and politics of Britain and Europe for a generation.
So there is a big disenchantment, I think, and people see Cameron, frankly, as indistinguishable from Clegg and Miliband in terms of policy.
Okay. It's interesting. There's a similar conversation in the U.S. where you have presidents from both parties that end up carrying out very much the same platform, similar policies. Do you think a politician like Ron Paul would be the most comparable in the U.S. to you, or kind of his more libertarian stance?
I think that Ron Paul's campaign over years to campaign for, in a democracy, we want personal liberty and the responsibility that goes with that. And we want a smaller state, and we don't want Washington in control of absolutely everything. I think there are some strong similarities.
And that said, I heard you recently say that the U.S., you would think there would be more of a conversation about the debt in this country. And I would agree with you. I completely agree with you. We talk about it all the time. It seems that other issues have become more pressing in more of the national psyche and in the mainstream media. I'm wondering if you think that the day of reckoning is being delayed by problems on the other side of the Atlantic or the Federal Reserve's policies and how long it can continue.
Well, I mean, just as what's been happening with the Eurozone crisis with the last 21 summits is they continue to kick the can down the road. The same is happening to a large extent in America with your massive, massive annual deficit. Nobody's really addressing this. I know that Romney in that debate did begin to talk about this, but frankly, your public finances are no better than the rest of the Eurozones, and the extent to which national debt is growing year on year on year is something very serious. I mean, frankly, what Western governments are doing at the moment is they're stealing money from their grandchildren. Oh,
absolutely, for the taxation down the line to pay for spending today. So when do you think the day of reckoning does come in the U.S.? Because the Fed has shown that it has a willingness to buy bonds. What it can't control is faith in the dollar in foreign exchange markets.
No, that's true. That's true. I don't think the day of reckoning has come. I'm pleased that Romney did well in that debate the other week, but I would like to see him be much more assertive. I'd like to see Romney say, look, you know, Barack's a nice chap, but he's proved he's not really up to the job. I have been successful in business. I've gone out there, I've done it, I've made tough decisions, I've run a company, I'm the man you need to run this economy. And let me tell you, America, it's going to be rough. It's going to be tough. There are going to have to be some very big cutbacks in the size of a state. But if you follow me, and we go on this course, we'll get this ship steady again.
We'll see if he would even be able to follow through on that. What he's proposing now isn't even a plan that would do that. And defense spending he wants to increase. I'm curious, we've heard warmongering from Romney towards Iran. In general, I think some would say that the U.S. has been saber-rattling about war in Iran. What do you think the reaction would be among financial and political elites in Europe if there was a war with Iran led by the U.S.
I think people would be very, very worried. I mean, look, Iran is a big country. We are now over a decade into a war in Afghanistan. And let's be honest, we're achieving nothing.
Oh, I couldn't agree more.
We're achieving nothing. Iraq, hugely expensive. OK, Saddam's gone, but does anybody really think that Iraq's a happier, better place? Or will be in 5 or 10 years' time? And if what we're saying with Iran is we want to stop them getting nuclear weapons, frankly, there's not much we can do to stop them acquiring nuclear weapons. I think what we need to do with Iran, frankly, is we need to sit down and attempt to have a very frank conversation with them. But to think by going to war that we will achieve much in Iran or stop them getting nuclear weapons, I think is ridiculous. And personally, I'm extremely tired of the United Kingdom joining in some of these overseas ventures when we never really think what the end game is going to be.
Yeah, it's a great point. And I do want to talk about regulation for a moment, because regulation is one of the things that we've spoken about before. One time when I interviewed you, you were coming from a non-wine party for a wine that couldn't call itself wine because of EU regulations. In the U.S., we have, for example, Obamacare that was supposed to help everybody get insurance. Now we're seeing reports from major restaurant chains, for example, that they're trying out shifting people to part-time part-time workers to see if that would defray the costs of complying with Obamacare. How do you set up regulations that set rules in a free market, but that don't go so far as to create unintended consequences for businesses, workers, taxpayers, even with
Well, I think in the end, this comes down to what your basic assumption is. You know, the basic assumption of the people that I do battle with in Brussels is that the state is the best means through which we can actually get the marketplace to be successful and get the relationship between employer and employee to be right. The state must regulate, the state must legislate, and the state gets it right. That's their philosophy. My philosophy is completely different. My philosophy is we should get the state out of business and out of people's lives as much as possible with, albeit, some sensible basic human protections for people so that they're not exploited and not abused. And it really is, which side of that fence do you come from? Do you believe the state can do this stuff, or do you believe that free enterprise and wealth are created by individuals who've got the state freed from them? And right at the minute, the statists are in control everywhere. They're in control in Westminster, they're in control in Brussels, and they're in control here in Washington, where Washington is building up a bigger and bigger state at the expense of the constituent parts of the USA. So there are some similarities.
There are many similarities, and a message like yours continues to grow and grow in popularity. So I really appreciate you being here on this show and sharing it with us. Nigel Farage.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.